Welcome guys, I'm Katrina with Homegrown Florida. We're going to be going through all of my goals from 2025 to show where we had successes and unfortunately where we had a decent amount of failures. I'm going to tell you what we're going to do different this year. One of the first goals I always set for myself every single year is an infrastructure goal. This year's infrastructure goal was mainly to focus on my front yard and making it pretty, but I think a little bit close to summer before I realized I needed a second infrastructure goal, which was a compost bin. And I got this 3-tier compost system that was from Gardener Supply. Not the cheapest compost system. There's other ways that you can do it for less expensive, but I really did love this because I needed more compost than what my tumblers was giving me. And I wanted a place where we could put more of our compost materials. It was not uncommon for us to fill up our tumblers and be running out of room in the compost tumblers and need, extra space, and instead we had to throw away our kitchen scraps and our paper and cardboard and stuff like that into the trash, which is something that I didn't want to do. So we did install that. But getting back to the front yard, I did a lot to the front yard. I wish I would have recorded more of it. I think that I would say that I got about 50% of my goal completed here. I put in some irises, I put in some petunias, some Mexican petunias, I put in some calla lilies. I also installed or propagated some of the cardelians. I'm not sure if I'm saying it right. And then this guy right here, pink plumeria, that I took from cuttings from a neighbor at my old house. They gave me a yellow and a pink. This one was the pink one, and I was really excited because I've been growing it for a whole year in a pot. I have 2 other plants still in a pot just in case this one doesn't take. Oh, and these guys, I think they're called Amaryllis. I can't say the name. Amaryllis. Anyway, they're the most gorgeous flowers. I'm so excited, and they popped back up. The next one of my goals is to grow a year's supply of certain kinds of vegetables, and this one was the start of one, which was broccoli. And I thought I did pretty exceptional last winter in growing enough broccoli that we put a bunch of it up. But I think I way underestimated how much broccoli we actually eat throughout the year. And I grew 26 plants. So I was not just the main heads, but then I collected all of the side shoots from the 26 plants. I blanched them, I froze them. I'll show that later. And I packed my freezer full of broccoli, and I thought that's got to be a year's supply. And then 4 months later, it was all gone. So definitely didn't do a year's supply of broccoli. When it came to corn, definitely didn't do a year's supply of corn. That would be pretty hard, and I knew that was kind of a stretch goal. My corn just didn't do well. I've been trying different varieties, different times of year, different fertilizers. I've tried all kinds of things, and I'm just not having the best luck. I don't know if I'm really going to grow it again. I say that. I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to try it again. Sometimes these goals that we set for ourselves teaches us that some of the goals are just not realistic. And I think with corn, it's just not realistic for me to, have a goal of growing a year's supply or even growing enough for fresh eating. It just doesn't seem to be the plant that likes me very much. One plant that I actually made a very big dent, just like with the broccoli, was green beans. And I was for sure that what I had put out was enough for us for a year's supply. But then something changed. And this happens too, right? It's crazy, the stuff that changes. We didn't eat a significant amount of green beans, but then our dogs went on a diet. I don't know if you saw Chloe and Bella lately. They were getting a little bit on the hefty side, and the vet said, hey, you need to, bring back their food, scale it back a little bit. And if they need a snack or if they, want to fill their bellies with something that's low calorie, use green beans. So yeah, what was a year's supply of green beans for us has become just like a 3 or more month supply of green beans now that the girls are eating basically a half a cup of green beans a day. So I definitely need to grow more green beans, but had it been, just us, I think it would have worked out. And then also these peanuts. I was like, I'm going to grow a year's supply of peanuts. Well, let me tell you, I definitely did so much better growing my peanuts this year than last year. But I am nowhere near a year's supply. And I don't think I fully appreciated how many green bean plants or how many peanut plants it takes in order to grow a year's supply, because we turn ours into peanut butter. And to get enough plants to grow enough to supply a year's worth of peanut butter when I eat like 2 tablespoons a day, yeah, I needed a lot more plants. This is kind of like the corn situation, but the peanuts actually grow better. They grow as a great cover crop, and I'm definitely going to be growing them again. I'll probably grow them in my summer garden every single year because they're just great plants and we do use them, but I think I'm going to use them less as a peanut butter, year supply, and more like a boiled peanut snacks throughout the year. I think that is the direction we're going to go, and leave the peanut butter to the store. The next one was peas. This one actually worked. I grew enough peas this year for a year's supply. I actually still have some in the freezer right now, shelling peas, which I thought was going to be really hard because they're shelled peas. These were the tall telephones, but yeah, I guess we just don't eat as much peas as I thought we did because we still have plenty left over. This winter, I'm growing the sugar snap and the snow peas since I still have some shelling peas. And then I think I'll just kind of go back and forth year by year, with one year growing shelling and the other year growing snow or snap, and then just kind of alternate between them. But I think I've got a handle on being able to grow a year's supply of them. So that was probably the only one that I was 100% hitting the goal. So this was a little bit of a blow to my ego. Oh, peppers, I almost forgot. I did grow a year's supply of sweet peppers. I think it was kind of by accident though, because I had started the plants, they were doing really well, and then I started to lose some of the plants. But then the Iquitos pepper did amazing for me, and I grew a year's supply, if not 2 or 3 years supply of sweet pepper with that. Squashes, I got a year's supply of that. Tomatoes, these were not on my list though. The squashes and the tomatoes were not on my list to do, but they just happened to be the year that I got a year's supply of them. I did a little taste test here between, vine riped, blushed, and then ripened inside, and completely green and ripened inside. It was a fun little test that I did throughout the year. You have to check out that video. But I kind of accidentally grew enough tomatoes for a year's supply of not just fresh tomatoes, but canned tomatoes, spaghetti sauce, salsa, bruschetta. I mean, I've made everything into canned products, and I have frozen tomatoes galore in my freezer. And the squash is just like in every corner of our house. We have these winter squashes, and we're eating them way more than before. When it came to fruit, I would say that I 100% met my goal when it came to fruit. The fruit harvest, or the fruit goal itself, was actually just to add 3 new trees and just increase the amount of fruit production that we are doing. Here we have the avocado tree that I thought I was going to lose because we had such a cold winter the winter before, and it froze pretty much all of the blooms. But that tree, as you can see there, it bounced back super well. The other thing I wanted to do was get the banana in the ground. So I've been growing a banana in a pot for like 3 years. It's never flowering. I don't know if it's a variety issue or if it's not going to fruit in a pot. I've seen people who do it. I know people that fruit them in pots, but mine just are not going to do it. So I put him in the ground. He's growing very well. We'll see if he fruits, and if he doesn't, I'll probably switch him out to a Namois. This is a dwarf Cavendish, but I'm thinking of a Namois. They can handle my cold a little bit better, and from what I understand, the bananas are pretty tasty, so I'll probably switch them out. But during that process of getting that little guy into the ground, I had multiple banana plants that kind of froze in the pots from our winters. I know it sounds crazy. I'm in Florida, but I live in an area that gets a decent amount of frost, maybe like 2 or 3 a year, and it's enough to like not just, hurt my banana plants, but it actually killed a couple of them, which was pretty shocking. So I took the pups that the mom created, and I created babies, and I kind of gave those away to friends and family. neighbors, those kinds of things, and then planted some in the ground. The loquat produced this year for the first time. Not a lot. There was like half a dozen loquats, but I suddenly realized how incredibly tasty loquats are. And now they're like one of my favorite fruits, and I'm just so excited because I can see all the blooms and fruit on the tree right now, and it is tremendous. The mulberries, of course, produced another crazy bounty. I ended up grinding them down, boiling them down, and then freeze drying them to make mulberry Kool-Aid. So I've been having mulberry Kool-Aid the whole year. I like that way of preserving it because you can take what was probably 20 gallons of berries, and they're not taking up room in my freezer. I have limited freezer space, so being able to blend them down, cook them down, and then freeze dry them into a powder that basically fits into a quart-sized jar was amazing. And I think I'm probably going to keep doing that. That has worked out really well for us. Another first this year was figs. I put my fig in the ground and it actually produced a fall crop, which I don't think is typical, but it produced a small fall crop. I got to try figs for the first time. My plum tree did great. Both of them did, the one in the ground and the one in the pot, and I was able to graft these two trees together in hopes that in the future I can get rid of the one in the pot and just have the one in the ground. Peachy did phenomenal as usual. The 2 or 3 that I added this year was the jujube, the star fruit, and a mango in a pot. And then I added another little banana, a mini banana, and I also added, I don't know if that was this year or last year. I think it was last year that I did the mandarin orange. It's HLB or citrus greening disease resistant. So those were the new ones that I added to the fold this year. I think whenever you're adding like fruit trees, you kind of need to think of like 2 or 3 to add a year. I think if you add 2 or 3 a year, you're going to be in a good place. I have not yet tasted the jujube or the star fruit, but I think that they're going to be amazing. I did get an opportunity to try the pineapples this year. I had 2 pineapples that were ready for harvest and they were amazing. Strawberries this year did not go well, but the strawberry plants that I put in towards the end of the year, just a couple of weeks ago, are looking tremendous, so much better than the ones, the bare roots I tried the year before, and they are looking like we're gonna have strawberries any day now. The watermelons did fantastic 2 years in a row. This one is the Moon and Stars. It did amazing for me. We were eating watermelon all through the summer season, but there was another one called Onza that I really, really liked. It's a small personal watermelon and it's seedless, which I thought was pretty cool. And that one I'm going to grow with the Moon and Stars this year. It kind of, Onza comes in first and then the Moon and Stars comes later in the season. So it's kind of like an early maturing and then a late maturing. And so we'll be in watermelon for like 3 or 4 months, which I think is going to be amazing. The next goal I always have is to grow more flowers. I did a video a little while ago of things I resisted, and flowers was one of those. If they couldn't produce food, I didn't want to grow it. But I have totally switched the way I feel about flowers. I am so in love with flowers now. So I'm trying to expand my knowledge of flowers. So I grew a couple new ones this year. The Gophrenia is new. That's the little ones with the little poof ball heads on the top of them, and then the dahlias that you saw earlier, those were brand new for me. And then I did, this is a Mexican sunflower, and then I did some zinnias. I always grow the zinnias, but the dahlias I actually grew from seed. I actually really love growing dahlias from seed. I know that most people do it for tubers, so they know exactly what color flower that they're getting. But I kind of like the surprise of it all. When it pops up, you have no idea what you're getting. You're getting pinks and yellows and the single blooms and the full blooms. I grew a bunch of sunflowers in all different colors and shapes. I attracted so many bees and butterflies. I had so much fun with the flowers this year. Another goal for me is always preserving food, and specifically for me it was trying out 4 new recipes. I always like to do my favorites, right? Like here we're blanching and freezing green beans. That's my favorite way of eating and storing green beans. I don't like canned green beans. I've learned that. So I always am trying to stick with the things that we like, but I do want to branch out and find new recipes. So for me, a goal is find 4 new recipes that you can preserve using your garden. So that way you find 4 new meals that you like. It's kind of like finding new dinners that you enjoy. So we still do our standard ones, like the green beans, but this was our first one. I did pickled green beans or dilly beans. We really liked them. I don't know if we eat them quite as much as I thought we might, but they're really good. The peas, these are the shelling peas. This is typically how we don't like canned peas. We like them blanched and then vacuum sealed and frozen. So that's one of our standard recipes. That's not a new recipe. And of course we have our broccoli. I did try freeze drying broccoli. There isn't really a safe canning option for broccoli. I didn't like freeze dried broccoli. I think if you were going to eat it freeze dried and not rehydrated, it would have been fine. For us, blanching and freezing is the way to go when it comes to broccoli, and that's the way that we eat it. So that's what I did to preserve our broccoli. This was the actual first time I ever did do it myself. I bought frozen broccoli before and that has worked, but I don't like theirs as much as I like mine because I don't cook mine or blanch mine super well done. I like it to still have some crispiness, and I was able to accomplish that. This actually was a new recipe. I tried 3 recipes on this, which was taking my Seminole pumpkins and I canned the actual cubed pumpkin, which is a safe recipe. I did a freeze-dried cinnamon sugar pumpkin, which I thought was pretty good. I'm not sure I would do that one again. I'm honestly not sure I'd do the canned pumpkin again. I think it's useful, but pumpkins last on the counter, especially Seminole pumpkins, last on the counter for like over a year. So I'm not sure it made sense to me to then put it in jars. But I did do it. I tried it. It works out great. You just drain it out when you're ready to use it, and then you can just blend it and make it into a pumpkin puree. You don't want to puree it and then put it in the jars because there's not really a safe recipe for that, but I can't say that I would do this again. It seems easier to me to just leave them in their pumpkin form. I guess unless you were not going to use it within a year, but I tend not to try to grow things that I'm not going to consume within a year. Now here is a second recipe that we tried that was new for the year, which was roselle. We actually had 2 roselle recipes this year that were new. This one is the roselle candy. I am addicted to it. It actually has taken the place of like fruit roll-ups in our house. And yes, I was somebody who was addicted to fruit roll-ups. This is at least a more cleaner version of them. But yeah, there's still a lot of sugar in this. I would not call this healthy in any way, shape, or form. But making roselle candy by, steeping the roselle in sugar and then for like a week, 7 to 10 days in your refrigerator, and then I dehydrated it. The second time I made it, I actually blended it into a syrup and then dehydrated it. Oh my gosh, it is so good. Doesn't really have the tart taste. It definitely is just a sweet taste, but it basically takes the place of whenever I have like a little sugar craving. I absolutely love it. Now this next roselle recipe was probably my favorite of all times. Now I made roselle jam before, but this was like a blended white roselle jam. I made it a little bit different. I usually leave it textured, but this time I blended it until it was completely fine. I guess you could have put it through a strainer. I didn't do all that. And then I made my typical jam and I made sure it set, and then I canned it, and oh my gosh, this is the best jam ever. I don't know what it was about blending it versus leaving it thick that just made it so much better. This is my new all-time favorite recipe, and this is why I like trying new recipes every year. For the rest of the roselle, because I had so much roselle, I freeze-dried it. I blended it and freeze-dried it, and I believe that we have close to, I don't know, 3 years worth of roselle. I'm not sure I'm even going to grow it this year because of how much roselle I have from the previous years. This is my mulberry harvest, and this was another new recipe for us where I made the mulberry Kool-Aid that I was talking about earlier. And this was just blending those frozen berries and then, cooking them down to where they into a liquid, putting them through a sieve to get off all of the chunky pieces and just till it's a liquid, and then I freeze dried it. And then the freeze dry we put into a blender, and then we make a Kool-Aid powder. I love this stuff. I think it is so good. It's a little bit hard to get off the trays, but the cool thing about freeze dryer trays is once you get them wet, that just rinses right off. It's actually like magic. But I really enjoyed the Kool-Aid recipe, and I have used it throughout the year. Although I haven't used it as much as I thought I would. I was using a lot of like Roselle tea. And so I kind of bounced between the Roselle tea and the mulberry Kool-Aid powder. And I kind of end up sticking to the Roselle tea for a lot longer. And I need to get back into the mulberry one so that I can use some of that up. Another new recipe for me was plum jam. I guess I might have made more than 4 recipes this year. For some reason I thought I was at 4, but I think we're even at 5 right now. But the plum jam, I finally had enough plums on my tree to make jam, and so I made little quarter pints because I knew I wanted to use these as gifts later in the year, and I did. I ended up giving them away at Christmas as gifts, not all of them, but it has to be up there between the Roselle and the plum jam, 2 of my absolute favorites. I'm not even sure I'm gonna make any other jams. Nah, I'll probably make strawberry banana jam because that's my husband's favorite, but other than that, I don't know, you guys. Those 2, they're the winners of this year. Another new recipe. Man, I did do a lot of new recipes. This one is the tomatillos. I had a really great tomatillo harvest this year, so I'm making a tomatillo salsa. I like salsa verde, but we just don't use it a lot. I like fresh tomatillo salsa. But when you grow a tomatillo plant, number one, you have to grow 2 plants because they have to pollinate each other. But the second thing is I like them fresh. I like them like a salsa like this where you have tomatillos and tomatoes and peppers and onions and lime juice, and you keep it kind of chunky and you don't blend it, and it becomes like this, fresh salsa. That's how I like it. But tomatillos produce a crazy amount of tomatillos. 2 plants gave me well over a year's supply of tomatillos. I don't need any more. Look at this huge batch of tomatillo salsa I'm making right here. So I put that on freeze dryer trays and I froze it, or I freeze dried it, and it came out looking really great. I did go ahead and rehydrate this, and I don't love the way it rehydrates. So what I ended up having to do with it is when I rehydrate it, once I get it back to its full hydration level, then I put it in a blender and I blend it down into like a restaurant style salsa, and that works better. Another one of my goals for the year, I had way too many goals this year, I think, it's always a cooking goal, right? So for me, the cooking goal was I wanted to make my own mozzarella cheese and make my own pasta. And so this is me making that mozzarella cheese. I wanted to see how hard or how easy it was to make your own cheese at home. So I started out with like the easiest one, which was mozzarella. And by the way, it is not easy. It was, these people online in the YouTube videos, they make it look like it's, it's so simple. It's really not simple. This is like my 5th try of trying it. And I can tell you right now, unless I have a dairy animal, I will never do this again. It is a science, and you kind of have to be perfect. And I'm sure it's just like anything else. Like when I first started sourdough, I had such a hard time with it, and it didn't go well, and I had a lot of failures. And then eventually it got to the point that I understood what the rules were around it, and now I can make pretty much anything sourdough. I think that cheese is kind of the same thing, but I just really don't have a desire to do it again. It was, like I said, unless I'm in a situation where I have an animal that produces milk and I need something to do with this milk, that will probably be my first and last time ever making cheese. Now, pasta on the other hand, I could totally see myself making pasta way more often. There is, a factor in there that it does take a little bit more time, but honestly, it's not as much time as you think. Like, it did not take me as much time as I thought it would take me. I also didn't do it by hand. I used a lot of little tricks of the trade. So if you wanted to try pasta for the first time, definitely check out that video from earlier in the year, because there was a guy on YouTube that shows how instead of kneading it by hand or even kneading it in the mixer, like you can just knead it as part of the flattening of the noodles. And there is a little bit of a I don't know, you kind of got to get used to how to put it through the pasta sheet maker thing. There is a little bit of an art to that, and once I got the hang of that though, I was like, you know what, this actually is pretty easy. And when you can get the hang of something on the first try of doing it, like, I think that gives it potential of something that I would do again. On top of that, like, it tastes so good. And I also just thought in my mind that pasta made fresh would be more, I don't know, softer pasta. Like when you go to cook it, it would become more mushy, but that is not the case. Like the drying process of it actually makes pasta worse. Fresh pasta tastes amazing. I don't know why I've never had fresh pasta before. I've never had it. So this was my first time having it, and it's tremendous. It is incredible the way that it tastes. It's so much better, so much better. And I just saw so many options out there to how to make it even better, right? You can add more flavoring to your pasta. You can add spinach, you can add, sun-dried tomatoes, you can add spices. The sky's the limit when you make pasta, and I find it so incredibly enjoyable. The next goal for me this year was to make medicinals. And so not just any medicinals, but skincare medicinals. So I've done a lot of like flu and, scrapes and anti-inflammatory and, help you when you're having a cold, help you when prepare for not getting a cold. Like I've done a lot of different kinds of medicinals. I've really played in this space for the last few years. But this year I was like, I really want to focus on nothing but skincare. And I did so many skincare products this year. I made soap. I made calendula lotion bars. I made body butter. I made chapstick. I made toners. I made a mosquito spray. That was like 2 years in the making. That took me forever to make. But I made so many different kinds of skincare products. And the one thing I would say is that I found things that I love and things that I probably never will do again. There was an oatmeal mask I made that was really easy to make, but yeah, I almost never use that oatmeal mask. And I absolutely love my body butter. So the body butter I made, I'm so happy that I made that, because that is like the best thing to use, especially when you have like shaver burns, which my skin is very sensitive to shaving. And so having that is like amazing. And then on top of that, the calendula solve that I make, that in the lotion bars, they're kind of very, very similar, but those two, like, they're great at rashes, scrapes. I had a sunburn this year, put that on, it was gone in a day. Like, I made some really incredible recipes, but like the soap that I made, probably will never make that again. It's fine, but unless I was going to get into making soap with like lye and animal fat, like tallow and stuff like that, like I think that I'll probably take a break on doing the little soaps, because they're pretty and they're great for gifts, but I'm not sure that they're like day-to-day use, something that I would use like the lotion bars or the body butter or even the chapsticks. Like I really like the chapsticks. The mosquito spray I definitely 100% will make more of. I'm gonna let some more of my lemongrass infuse. I'm probably gonna make a lot more calendula infused oil and a lot more lemongrass infused oil, because I think that those are two that I use probably the most. And then of course my different teas, I like those, like my chamomile teas and my roselle teas and stuff like that. They're all really, really good. But this year, I don't know. What do you guys think? I haven't really considered what I want to do medicinally this year, because I feel like I've made all the things that I like, and I just can't think of where else I need stuff. I feel like my little medicinal medicine cabinet is complete after this year, after making, stuff for health, stuff for gummies, stuff for vitamins, and then stuff for skincare. I'm basically stumped on where to go next with medicinals, other than just making more. And that's kind of where I'm at right now, is just to keep my stock up and just refill it when I need it, I guess. And just for fun, I also wanted to grow things that were different colors. Right there, what you saw was a blue pumpkin. So cool. It was a Thai Kangat cob, and it was adorable. I love those pumpkins. I'm probably going to grow a lot of them. I haven't even eaten mine yet because I've been using it as decoration, so hopefully it tastes good. This right here is a pink lemonade blueberry, so it's going to be a pink blueberry. I haven't seen the blueberries yet. I'm hopeful that maybe I'll get some flowers this year. I should. And so that will be joined with my sunshine blueberry plants, which are actual blue blueberries. But we'll have a pink blueberry and a blue blueberry. Next up was peas. I grew this as a sugar magnolia. And I wanted to grow peas that were both purple and green. A lot of times when you cook them, these purple ones turn green. I also grew a lot of red onions. I did that last year and this year. So not just the white and the yellow, but the purple or red onion. I don't know. Is it purple or is it red? I also grew, and this one threw off so many people, which was the white roselle. Everyone was like, is yours not mature? Why is yours white and mine are red? This is just a white variety. I love the white variety for a number of reasons. One, it tastes just like the red, but you don't have any of the staining, and I feel like the white was so early maturing. I mean, I started getting roselle from this in August, and typically you don't start getting it until like October or November. I was pulling off so much roselle. It also was a really, really big producer. I think the person who sold them to me was an Etsy store called Buckeye Heirloom Seeds. The last I heard, I don't know if they still have them, so, or if the shop is still there. So that might be a little tricky to find, but they do sell them in other places. Oh, I also grew the blue turmeric. Now I've been growing this one for a couple of years, but this is like the first harvest I had that was really good. And I freeze dried this because the blue turmeric, it's actually not blue. I mean, obviously the color looks blue, but it's a black turmeric is what it's called, the variety. I got it from greendreamsfl.com, or Green Dreams are right down the road from me. It's more of a medicinal turmeric. You can use it as a traditional turmeric. It doesn't stain, which is nice, but it also has much higher levels of medicinal qualities. And then I grew all different kinds of colors, shapes, sizes of tomatoes: oranges, yellows, blacks, purples, reds, pinks, you name it, I grew it. I grew every color of tomato. Striped, this is the Fred's tie-dye. I kind of went above and beyond when it came to growing the different colors of tomatoes, but I did different colors of other things too, like the peppers, the Iquitos pepper, which turns kind of orange. I did different color beets from white to yellow to red beets. I did purple potatoes, which I never thought I would, but the Huckleberry Gold is actually a purple on the outside, gold on the inside, because I'm not typically a purple or red potato fan, but those were outstanding. I really went all in when it came to the colors. So you can see from this whole video that I did achieve a lot of my goals. I think I got about 70% of the way through my goals. I didn't hit all at 100%, but that is rare to happen, and I'm okay when that happens because I still made tremendous progress, and that's what we need to focus on, is not the things that didn't go well, but the many, many, many things that did go well and the many lessons that we learned through our goals. I hope you guys had an amazing 2025 garden year. Thanks for hanging out with me this year. I really adore your company and your time. Happy gardening, guys.